Just like a stunningly interlaced tapestry, our lives are composed of millions of interwoven threads within ourselves, and many that we share with others. Emotions provide colors, each emotion adding its own hue like a woven art. Our next speaker is a pioneer in the world of mental health and well-being. As the founder of Oman's first mental health clinic, Dr. Basma has dedicated over 25 years in advancing mental health on both a national and international level.
It was 1995. I read this novel, and it was called The American Quilt. Then later, it became a movie. I loved reading this novel for so many reasons. The two first reasons were, it has a sentence in it, and the sentence said, if you want to plan for your future, look into your past. The other thing that it had, which really resonated with today, the story was about a family. And this family was building a quilt. This quilt was for this girl's future. I would like you guys today to come with me and build my quilt. A quilt makes you warm, keeps you safe, and also makes you feel that you're intact and you're doing very well. So if I start with the first thread in my life, I was born in December. It was a very cold day, apparently. It was snowing, and it was in London. And it was a great occasion, not because I was born in it, but it was the first type of breach in the hospital. And in the 70s, yes, I was born in the 70s, it was something unique. And the hospital was an educational hospital. So my mother would tell me this story, yeah? And she was like, all the students came and saw this grand occasion. And I'm like, Allah, that's so grand, I'm so happy. But you know, it was different. And different is always unique. My granny would always say that. She's a lady that was born in Ireland, and she immigrated with her family to London. And for them, work was very important. Now, here's my first thread. In the place that my granny lived in, and I would go every summer, she would look after people with disabilities. It was a hostel for people who had ADHD, autism, and they were adults, so they lived there. This was the first thread that I felt, wow, this is nice, you know? Looking after people, giving them hope, and also giving them something to do. And my journey started thinking, this is something I want to do. So when I started school, I noticed that I was different in the term where I would not memorize well. And in school, you have to memorize a lot. To the extent you'll actually have to memorize the page sometimes, and that was not me. I understood. But memorizing wasn't my thing. So it was different. And I would have difficulties because of that. The teachers felt, why doesn't she memorize? She understands well, but you know, finish our job and just memorize like everybody else. But for me, understanding was important. And that's why, in my journey, I felt that I want to do things that would craft my life different. I want to help people. I want to teach them that even if you're different, it is okay if you can't do what everybody else is doing, but do something different. Try and be unique, and try and use all the creativity that you have. So it was only natural for me, and I'm very lucky, I must say, to be able to study mental health. And that is the other thread of this amazing quilt. Now, doing mental health and trying my best to learn from everybody around me. When I started working, I had to understand where to go, even though I was working in a hospital, but I would travel through the hospital to learn from everyone. And that is not what a lot of people would think they need to do. They would stay in one place, right? But once you go somewhere, you need to spread your wings because it's something that you love. And this is how you will pull all these threads together. So after that, I started to have a new beginning with my own family. Now, having a family, that is so many threads, so many emotions, threads of love, hope, fear. You know, you have responsibility. But it's a beautiful ending to everything, bringing it together. Also traveling and studying abroad while having a family. Some people say that's too much, but that was lovely. Because it was a challenge, and challenges are what make you become more creative and more willing. Now, strengthening these threads. So when people sew, and we saw a lovely video of people, a person doing, carpets and threading quilts and bringing all these threads together, you need to make it strong, right? Because one loose thread, what would it do? It would make your whole work, maybe, loosen. So that was what I was trying to do. And I did that by traveling. They always say traveling teaches you. Traveling really does teach you, and it helps you to have connections. You cannot stay in one place. And we are known as travelers. We've traveled the deserts, the dunes, all our lives, right? But we stopped at a time. Learning from others is something I wanted, and connecting. Connection is key. So are you with me on my quilt? Do you know what thread we are at now? Because after this thread, it got knotted. So when you thread things together, sometimes it creates a knot if you don't do it well. If I go back in memory in school, we had domestic studies. And one of the things that our teacher, by the way, her name was Is'af, and it was very odd that her name was Is'af. And she was this little woman, and she would walk in with her heels, and she was from Lebanon. And she would have this real high pitch, but she was an amazing teacher. And she taught us how to make all these knots. So in life, what happened when I started to feel this is too much? So dealing with a lot of cases throughout the years, seeing a lot of cases, working in the university hospital, then exploring other venues, as I showed you. I opened a clinic. There were so many knots in my life, but all the knots can be fixed. So the moment you feel of that moment of, oh no, what should you do? Pause and just try and reflect. And the reason why I brought the beginning of the story about the book that I had read, we don't understand that our life has so many threads that we connect. We pick up so many threads from everyone, from our family, from who we live with, from our friends, our community, our culture. We pull all these threads. Now, you have the option to use it, and you have the option to just let it all wither away, right? So culturally, I was balancing between two cultures, and I'm very lucky because it taught me that, first of all, we are all the same, by the way. As humans, we all go through the same things. It also taught me the importance of culture. It also taught me the importance of being different, being inspiring. The first story that I told you about my mother and all the lovely audience, that was the beginning of something different. And every time I hear that story, I have moved on from the fear of, oh my God, everybody was there, thank God I was a baby. But my mom says it so positively, because for her, it was different. And I say this a lot because people are scared of being different. We want to go straight because everybody's going straight. If we go left or right, what's going to happen? It's not going to work. So let's copy this person because it's safe. But when we see these beautiful carpets and these beautiful quilts, is it only one way? Today, look at a carpet. Or look at a knitted jumper or anything. Is it only one string? A thread itself is full of so many, right? So it's not a thin one. And if you see all these things, how it's created and how it works, you'll notice that it ends up being extremely beautiful. So I actually stopped at a time of my life after that oh no appointment, that oh no bit that I put it there. I stopped. And I noticed I've done quite a bit. I want to do more, but I haven't enjoyed it. I've been running to prove that I can do it. Being brought up in a family where I'm the eldest, being brought up in a family with a father that was you have to do your best. You have to work hard, which is normal. But I took it in a way, yes, I have to. Hearing my grandmother talk about her immigrating and how it was important for them to find a job, and always telling us that without your work, you are nothing. Without your certificate, you are nothing. And this is something that is very sad today to hear. Because when we hear it today, people are like, no, there's so many other ways. We don't have to go through everything you guys went to in studying. I'll just be a blogger. I'll just do a hashtag. I'll just write any rubbish on the internet and I'll be famous. And that is what happens. So now, we come from a generation where you had to be, even my profession was odd. You had to be a doctor, a teacher, a lawyer, an architect. These were the wow. At my time, being a psychologist or studying psychology was also like, what? Why is she doing that? Let her study computer science or something like that. To now, being in this generation where even that is not important, it does make the threads of your life sometimes you want to rethink it, right? You're like, was my threads wrong then? Did I weave this quilt in a very bad way? Is my quilt not unique? Because I thought it was unique. But in the end, you have to think of something. You have to pull everything you had in your life. Pull it all together. Bring all your resources. Reflect a lot. Reflect on your childhood. Reflect on everything you're going through. The sentence that I heard in that novel, or I read in that novel, and the idea of, if you want to plan your future, maybe look a little bit to what happened before. Some people don't want to go there. Maybe it wasn't good. But I want to tell you something. It's never not good. There is always something. Now, the way I was born, and there's a lot of doctors here, maybe at the time it was very dangerous. But it worked out. Now it's a piece of cake, of course. It worked out, and it worked into something beautiful. And I think a big part of it is how my mother's attitude to things is always like, that's nice. That's lovely. Did you see the good part of it? And I never understood it as a child. Like, I would be upset in my room, and then she'll come, and I'm like, Mommy, I'm upset right now. She's like, okay, what time shall I come back? I'm like, what? Like, who says that? I'm like, really? But she was trying to make it better. So when I look at my life, and I pull all the threads of creation together, and I remember that the first thread was seeing the hostel that my granny had looked after these people and seeing how, okay, this was something I wanted to do. I wanted to be a Girl Scout when I was in school, and then I wanted to work with people who are in camps as I grew up now. I want to help. I have this thing in me, I want to help. It's because of that first thread, by the way. That first thread I saw as a child. So when we look at all those threads together, and we see a complete, hopefully, it's a kind of a technology quilt, okay? But I think there's more space to it. I can make it bigger and bigger. And if you ask me now, is that it? Are you done? Is your quilt unique? Have you finished? Is all your threads pulled together? I'll tell you no. I am going to have more oh no moments. I am going to have more, okay, what do I do now? What thread shall I pull? Shall I pull an old one? I am going to have a loose thread that I'll need someone to help me. I'm going to have that. But it doesn't matter. Because if I keep an open mind that I can have other people help me in this journey, and I will have a quilt that will keep me safe and warm, which others do not have, maybe I can share my quilt with others. So here, talking today about threads, I find it so different and so unique, and it did bring me back to a lot of things in my life. If I didn't start with that one golden thread, I wouldn't be where I am today. So believe in yourselves. And today go and pull all the threads, old ones, the good ones and the bad ones, and check what do you want to do. How is your quilt gonna look? Thank you very much.